This week on the Baseline Podcast, Josh and I are back to talk about the World Series and how really it could be all but over and the Rangers could be winning their first World Series title. And on top of that, we're going to be talking about the first college football rankings that came out and how we were kind of shocked, but not really, of what the rankings happened this first week. And then we break down all the games happening this week in college football and what the Browns will be doing this weekend in the NFL. All that and so much more coming up on the Baseline Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben, that's Josh, and we're back. We are here 2 weeks in a row. It is actually November as we're recording this. We're recording this on a Wednesday. It's November. Halloween happened. It's so funny because when you live in Europe, you really don't notice it. I mean, you notice it with like the international people that are here, but you don't really notice it. It's kind of funny. Then I look on, all the NBA teams and stuff all have their different things for Halloween. But how was your Halloween there, Josh?
Unpopular opinion, Halloween is mid, so I did not do any dressing up or participate in any festivities or anything.
Not even at work?
Just,
not even at work?
No. Like I said, it's an unpopular opinion, I know, but I
think it just gets, okay, I'll be honest, it just gets old. Like after a while, it just gets old. It's just
after I turned 12, it's just like, I don't think that I need to wear costumes anymore.
See, I grew up in a Baptist family, which means that we did a harvest party. Not Halloween. We did harvest party.
Yeah, I grew up going to harvest parties too.
Dude, let's be honest, those were more fun, man. Like at least there was things to do. Like there was actually fun things to do at a harvest party.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I think I could have fun at a Halloween party. It's just not my scene and not like.
I mean, what are you gonna dress up as? I mean, you're already Superman. Like, what else do you have to do?
Yeah, I could just come in and wear a tank and be like, yeah, I'm this
bro.
bodybuilder. I could put on a Superman costume and fit the part. But some of the costumes I have seen that I enjoyed, I think costume of the year is that one guy that wore the Randy Johnson costume and his girlfriend was the bird that he hit.
Awesome. That was so cool.
Yeah, that's all-time great stuff. And then basically everybody else was just Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. Which is like, wow, stupid. Creative.
Yeah. Actually, I did see that there was two Eagles teammates dressed up as Kiss, like two members from the Kiss band, which was kind of cool. I think that was kind of cool. But then I also, Wembanyama, I was talking to Josh right before we started recording. Wembanyama, plays for the Spurs. He's 7'4", dressed as Slender Man. And if you've ever played that game, it's creepy. Then you put a real life human in that costume and it's bizarre. Go on our Instagram at baseline.podcast and you'll see the story and it's very creepy. And honestly, if he came up and said hi to me, I would probably punch him. Like it just, not cool.
One other costume that I enjoyed seeing was Joe Rogan dressed as that one guy that everybody insisted was Joe Rogan at the World Baseball Classic, who had the Puerto Rico jersey and the blonde wig, and they said Joe Rogan think he's slick. And on his last show that he did with Elon Musk, that he was in costume. So I'm assuming that they were recording that on Halloween and he had that blonde wig on in the Puerto Rico jersey. I was like, it's Joe Rogan, it's Joe Rogan. It's awesome. Yeah.
Oh, I gotta love this holiday. But speaking of holidays, there's a team right now in the World Series that's enjoying a little holiday. It's getting close to where they can go enjoy a holiday. And that'd be the Texas Rangers. Josh, give us a recap of what's going on and how much Ben is hoping that this turns around because his prediction's about to go into the mud.
Yeah, I might have a prediction correct here for the first time in a while. But
which, by the way, as we're recording this, the game is happening tonight. So by the time we're done, this could
be... as it stands, Texas is up 3-1. They are going to have to go the rest of the series without Adolis Garcia and Max Scherzer, which Scherzer might have been pitching in Game 7. And he had to leave Game 3 early, but they still won that. And Garcia obviously has just been on a tirade here with the amount of RBIs he's had. He's already set the record.
What was the injury?
Postseason.
What was the injury?
It's something like left side tightness or something like that. It was
interesting.
Like that sounds like it just sounded like super unofficial. I was like left side tightness or like a elbow.
But that keeps you out of games.
Like
That's weird. That's weird.
Yeah, like it's too uncomfortable for him to continue to go on, I guess, or it's keeping him from being his best. So no more Adolis. But it didn't matter because last night when I was watching Game 4, Texas put up 11 runs. Everybody was hitting homers. Corey Seager.
He's Mr. October pretty much now.
Mr. October, if you look at it, it's the stats side by side after they've played like 70-something games each. That's who I predicted would win World Series MVP, I believe, as well. And Seager and the whole Texas lineup, honestly, has stepped up in Adolis's absence. Arizona ended up getting a couple big innings late, so they were able to close that gap. It was like 11-1 or 11-2 going into the eighth, but then ended up being 11-7. But up to this point, Ben, it's been about what you'd expect. Game one went in extra innings, and Garcia actually hit the walk-off there. Game two, Arizona, the bullpen and the pitching staff came up big, and they got a couple big hits, and they ended up blowing Texas out, actually. Then Texas wins game three in a pitcher's duel, and then Texas offense gets going game four.
Yeah.
So that was a big reason why I picked Texas, is I just thought they had the higher ceiling. And I mean, even Marcus Semien, who's been cold this whole postseason, got a couple big hits last night. So
Yeah.
it definitely helps when you got the guys that have been struggling to be able to step up, especially when you got a superstar out. But it's looking like Texas is going to be okay. Like you said, game 5 is tonight in Arizona. Then they go back to Texas if necessary for game 6 and 7.
Yeah.
But Arizona's also been in this spot before. They've been playing down, it seems like, pretty much this whole postseason. So this isn't necessarily new territory. But in playoff history, I think you threw something up on our story today. There's only been like 14 out of 92 teams to come back in postseason play from down 3-1.
And I believe,
was
there a team? I think it was like, what was it, 2016 that came back against, what was that team's called?
Oh, the Pittsburgh Pirates in 1962. Yeah, that's
no,
right.
No. 2016. What was that team they faced? The Cubs faced who were they facing? Oh, right. It was the Indians. Oh, yeah, I remember.
It was the Cleveland Indians. There's not a team in the league right now called the Cleveland Indians.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Stuff up, Ben.
Oh, am I now? Am I? Okay. All right. Well, anyways, but
it's nothing that we haven't seen in our lifetime, I guess.
But I will say this, like, I think it's been, honestly, Arizona blew the first game. They should have been up 2-0. Like, Arizona should have been up 2-0 after that blow that first game. So it could have been different, but again,
yeah,
I was banking on the fact that the youth would take over, and the youth has just struggled. And I think that's hurt Arizona. And I think the Rangers have just looked like the better team, and it would be cool for the Rangers. Obviously, they've never won a World Series, which would be awesome. And also, they've won, by the way, they're 11-0 on the road. Like, this team cannot be beat when they're going on the road. So it is quite fascinating with what this team is doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In addition to that, too, I think they're also undefeated when they're the team that scores first, and when they out homer their opponent, they also have only lost once this whole postseason. So it's.
So what is your gut say?
Been a crazy run.
Gut say it's over after we're recording this? Do you think that the game it's going to be over, or do you think maybe it'll be stretched out one more game?
So I believe it's Zach Gallen versus Nathan Eovaldi tonight, which is each team's 1v1. I would like to think that Arizona is going to get one more win, so that it's not a 4-1 series and we can get a little bit more baseball action. But gut kind of leans like, and it's going to have to take more than Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte. I feel like those are the only two guys that have really been hitting consistently for Arizona. It's going to be
a little bit, but that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, he did have one of those home runs, 3-run homer last night. And Christian Walker, I think, went 3 for 5, and he's struggled to hit this whole postseason. But it's going to take a whole team effort, but it also wouldn't be shocking. We've seen it in game 2, or game 3, I should say, where the teams got in a pitcher's duel, and Zach Gallen versus Nathan Eovaldi definitely could be another pitcher's duel. And it seems like Arizona, when they're in the lower scoring games, I would give the edge to them. So that's another reason why I think Arizona can go ahead and win game 5 tonight before going back to Texas for the final 2.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's hard for me to believe that Arizona's going to pull this out. I think this team is different than the Cubs team back in 2016. I think that Cubs team was, I think, really high powered. And as much as Arizona's played well, I don't think they're that high powered team that can go out and dominate both sides of defense and offense. I just, at the end of the day, I just think that right now, obviously I chose them to win it, and I would love to see them win it, but 3 wins in a row against this high-powered offense of the Rangers, that means you're going to have to score like 10 runs like each game to just hope you're in it. So unless something happens where it's like the Phillies, where the Rangers just like shut off and like they have no offense, that's the only way I see the Diamondbacks coming back and taking this, is if the Rangers offense just disappears.
And the Rangers, at least to me, haven't shown me any signs that they're like a hot and cold team that can get streaky. I think this is actually who they are.
Yeah. And to think about this team, like this Rangers team, like they're young too. Like they got a few young dudes, like rookie age guys. But we also forget that both these teams were like 100 loss teams like 2 years ago. So like I think this was the first year where we saw true parity in the MLB, where we saw like teams that were bad a few years ago are actually good. And I think you can agree with me. I think we wish more sports were like this, where it's like, okay, you can be bad and then become good. It's not just like good all the time. So this is good for baseball. I know the viewership is the lowest since like
Yeah, game one
2013 or whatever like
I
that.
saw was like one of the
So
lowest watched, and it's
I think part of that is because it's not really big teams. Like I think Texas
yeah,
is big, but no one really wants to watch Arizona. But at the end of the day, I think people are tired of seeing like Atlanta, uh, Los Angeles,
Houston.
Houston. Like that, people are tired of seeing these teams. They watch it because okay, there's a big markets, but at the end of the day, I think a true baseball fan loves seeing this, where it's fun to see teams that you didn't expect to be in the World Series.
Yeah, that's one of the only explanations I can come up with, because baseball viewership as a whole, that after all the rule changes, we weren't super
I
crazy
just think
about,
it's
and we
that
weren't
big
sure it was going to
markets.
do what they
Yeah.
wanted. But yeah, overall viewership was up this year. So yeah, I'm kind of scratching my head as to why the
And I think it's hard too because
World
it's
Series has been a
football.
little low. But
The football is so big right now, and football is college football and NFL. I think it's hard for a lot of people to go like, do I watch football? Or I think it's that mix too of
yeah,
when the
because
playoffs take
some of
place.
these World Series games have been competing with the NFL and the college football
Yeah,
audience too. So
yeah,
that's not necessarily something unique to like this year, though. I mean, that's always
yeah.
kind of been the case, is that the World Series, goes through football season. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it is the lack of the big markets. People maybe would have been more excited to tune into like an Atlanta versus a
Yeah.
Houston World Series. But I mean, I'm
Or
okay with
Cincinnati,
this.
Cincinnati, Cleveland World Series. That'd be pretty cool. That I
I
will
hope we
say
get that
before I
someday.
listen, before I die, I want to have that. I want to have Cleveland versus Cincinnati, Battle of Ohio for the World Series. It'd be phenomenal. It would be literally epic. Maybe only
It'd
for
be pretty
Ohio
cool.
people, but it'd be kind of awesome. But
Agreed.
speaking of October football, college football is at the point now. We're in November, Josh, which
We
means
are
college football rankings have come out.
playoff
Um,
rankings.
so I don't know what you want to do. You want to touch on maybe some of the games last week, and then we could jump into the rankings just to kind of recap, or how do you want to do this, Josh? How do we want to attack this?
We could. I think we can go over some of the scores that maybe played into
Yes, I agree.
how the playoff poll turned out here.
Uh,
Obviously, you got Ohio State here. It was we can talk about that one first. It was another gritty performance
did
on
you
the
watch the
road
game? Did you
at
watch the game?
Wisconsin. I did not. I was I think this is when one of the World Series games was going on, if I remember correctly.
I see what's more
Um,
important to Josh.
yeah, big baseball guy. That's always going to be
No,
priority,
I will
is
I
the
will
World
say
Series
about that game
games.
though is that Ohio State defense once again showed that like this is not just a one off. Like I keep hearing people say that Ohio State's a one off. It's like, dude, they've dominated every team defensively, and it's not even been close. So
Yeah,
for all you out
I
there, the defense is real. The defense is
Marvin
real.
Harrison Jr.
He's a
continued to
freak,
stay
dude.
hot. Travion Henderson continued to make an impact. And from what I hear from everybody, he's not struggling to make those cuts anymore. He
No,
looks like he's fully healthy and
should
fully
be
there.
scary for every team. By the way,
Yeah. I mean, I think still, like, as a fan, you would love to see some kind of improvement from Kyle McCord from week one to week
yeah,
now, but he still kind of just looks like the same kind of guy. But I mean, I think Ohio State is who they are at this point, Ben. This
yeah,
is their identity,
yeah.
the
And
the
the
lower
only
scoring gritty style.
Yeah. And the only fear I have is obviously Lathan Ransom went down with a non-contact injury. There's still not much update on what's going on with him, but that's a huge blow for the defense. But dude, when you have a 5-star waiting in the wings, like it's kind of a blessing. So yeah, I agree with you though. Like this is gonna like people, this is the new Ohio State, at least for this year. Maybe it will change. You, guys, just remember what happened last time. It was like this 2012. I mean, sorry, 2002 national title. So like the similar kind of style of games, not big blowout wins. It was a grind out type thing. They had a good defense. I think the offense is better than it was back in 2002, but still similar type of team. So anyways, I'm just saying that. But the game that really frustrated me was because I got a bunch of flack from, Tyler, some of these people. Uh, I had a buddy back home, Tyler, that did this, but
About to be like, who is Tyler?
no, he's a
Thank
buddy
you
back
for
home.
listening, Tyler.
No, it's from college, anyways. He's a Big 12 fan, and he was mad that I had quite a few. Oklahoma Oklahoma a little high, as he would say. He thinks that they shouldn't be as high. He's a Texas guy, but
Yeah.
what did you think? What That's the thing. Let's talk about Oklahoma because
I think,
obviously,
yeah,
there was a
that's
lot
the
of
next game to talk about,
there was
honestly.
a lot of like Instagram comments that were approached to me.
Yes.
Um, just a few, saying that I was a little high, but I had no reason not to be. Like there was no
Go
reason.
ahead and give your defense, and I'll kind of explain why I've been not as high on Oklahoma
Okay,
as you.
this is the way I've said it. Is like I think they had a very good win against Texas. I think Texas is a very good team. I thought that win was a very gutty kind of win. Like they needed that win, and then every other win they really had been fine. I mean, the defense at times looked shaky, but for the most part, they've been a good team. Offensively, been doing well. Um, I knew at one point they were probably going to lose, but I thought, hey, they got through Texas. You know, they're going to just have to now let's grind through the Big 12 season and then go from there. So, what's your thoughts, I guess, on that? Because I guess that's my thing is like I didn't see. It's kind of like with Washington. I didn't see a weakness. Did I think they were? Did I think they were struggling at times? Of course, but I didn't see the weakness that maybe some people saw. I saw a team that had a quarterback that could lead the charge and that had been making plays all the way up till obviously this past weekend where they got beat. Let's be honest, got owned a little bit. So
Mm-hmm.
very interesting to your take on this game.
Yeah,
Kansas, by the way, Kansas is for real. By the way,
Kansas is who I thought would be in the Big 12 championship game with Texas at the end of the year when we were given our
yeah, that's true.
Big 12 preview. Oklahoma, I mean, I think I've given them their flowers. They're definitely a better team than what I thought they would be this year.
Yeah,
But even after the Texas game, I really thought after that game that Texas is still a better team, even though Oklahoma did get that win. I think if they played, 10 times, Texas would
oh, I
win the
agree. Yeah,
majority
yeah,
of
yeah.
them still. And I've
I mean,
been,
it's the same thing with Washington, Oregon. I think we said that if they
yeah,
played 20
I think
times, Oregon would
Oregon,
win most of the times.
I would think,
Yeah,
yeah. But I've been given respect to Oklahoma, not necessarily putting Texas ahead of them, uh, at least any time lately. But I haven't put them in my top five because I feel like their time was going to come where there was no way that they were going to run the table here. And when you look at their last three games now with Kansas, with UCF and Texas, you're starting to see some of Oklahoma's old habits from last year come up. Josh Pate broke this down on one of the last Late Kick episodes where I think their defense is allowing 32 or 33 points per game in that stretch, and they're also allowing over 450 total yards of offense on
it's
average
looking
in
like
those
the old
games. And
Oklahoma.
those numbers are very similar to their season totals last year of what they were averaging. So it's like, okay, if we have Oklahoma playing below average defense, I'm not sure Dylan Gabriel is a good enough player. I mean, he's a great player. He's been in
He
my
had a rough game last
Heisman.
game though.
Yeah, he's been in my Heisman final or Heisman rankings for the last several weeks. I think he's a good player, but yeah, you're right. In this game, he had no touchdowns, one pick, 171 yards. Uh, and yeah, Oklahoma, I mean, they're falling in some old habits, and they got to go to Oklahoma State this week. Oklahoma's only a 5.5 point
And
favorite in that one too.
Oklahoma State has the leading rusher in the country, by the way.
And it looks like, I mean, I kind of left Oklahoma State for dead after they lost to South Alabama, but they're 6-2 right now, so it's not going to be any easy game for them. So I'm not necessarily going to go ahead and say Oklahoma State is winning that game yet, but from here, I mean, Oklahoma's got to clean up defensively because they got to go there. Then they got a home game with West Virginia, who's 5-3 right now and has proven to be a spoiler, I think, sometimes. Then they got to go to BYU, and then they host TCU, who's, I mean, they're only
Atrocious,
at
dude.
500 right now, but I feel like if Oklahoma, the defense is still struggled, they got one more loss on their schedule in these 4 games.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I think that we saw that a lot around college football, just teams that just maybe didn't live, kind of looked rough this past weekend. We could talk about how Clemson has just fallen off a cliff.
Gee whiz, dude.
But fun fact about Clemson, I don't know if you heard the news that came out today that Dabo went on like a rant against this guy that came up and said like, you're getting paid 11.5 million and you were at 500 ball. That he's like, I don't care how much I'm making. Don't talk to me like a kid. And I'm like, dude, like,
On the coach's
what do you
show, yeah.
expect, man? Like, what do you expect? You have run this program to the ground because you're not willing to make changes that you need to adapt to. Nick Saban is, Kirby Smart has, Ryan Day has, like all these coaches make, and then you're just stuck with this like pattern of coaching moves that make no sense. And the fact you're 500 and you might not even be you're not even maybe in the top 5 of the ACC. It's just to think where Clemson was like 4 years ago to where they are now. It's like two totally different eras. And it's mind boggling. I know that wasn't a game we wanted to talk about, but it just, to me, just it's so frustrating to see how I love that he's old school, but there's a time when you have to change.
And I thought he was changing before the season started. It's like, okay, DJU is out. That relationship for one reason or another didn't work. We thought it was for the best. And you got Kid Klubnik, who was the number one QB in his class. You bring in the hottest name and assistant coaching with Garrett Riley to run the offense. But then it sounds like you're not really letting him run his offense. And it looked like they're on the right track. And now you're 4-4. And it makes me think, like, yeah, Dabo won, I think, 2 natties in 3 years. How much more can he tank the program before Clemson actually fires him? Like, would they fire him? Like, what does he have to do at Clemson? How bad does it have to get?
He's been there since what?
Let him go.
07, 08, something like that. That's how long he's been there since.
Somewhere around there, like the Taj Boyd days, I think, is when he started off. But yeah, it makes you wonder. Like, yeah, it is a very much so a what have you done for me lately?
Well, it's the same. Well, it's the same as like Kirk Ferentz at Iowa. Like, literally, the AD had to fire his own son because he's not willing to. Right? It's the same idea. Like, he's basically like, dude, you want your job? If you want your job, then you're gonna let me fire your son. That's pretty much how it went. Like, and I just, some of these coaches have to adapt. Like, as a coach right now, like, I realize that I have to adapt based on what is given in front of me. What is happening? What's the coaching staff like? What's the league like? Like, those are things you have to do in order to succeed at a high level. So, for sure. But yeah, it is fascinating. Any other games you want to touch on before we talk about the college football rankings?
Yes. Very quickly, let's talk about Washington. They're at least right now the odd man out among the undefeated teams from the top 4. They're at 5, and after coming off that win that we mentioned over Oregon, on their home field by 3 points. I think there's a lot of things Oregon did in that game to more so lose it. But since then, Washington has escaped Arizona State by 8 points, and then they just escaped Stanford by 9 points. So they do have that one signature win over Oregon, which you got to give them their flowers for. But even before that, with Arizona, they only won that game by 7. And it looks like Washington can maybe be in that same boat as Oklahoma, where, I mean, Oklahoma already has a loss, but they got to play USC, Utah, Oregon State, and Washington State to end the season. I feel like they're due for a loss here, Ben. I don't know which game it'll be, but I'd be surprised if they can run through this undefeated with how much they've been getting, not necessarily lucky, but how close some of these games have been.
And again, this goes back to Pac-12 just killing each other off, basically. This is what happens every year. The Pac-12.
One elite team just needs to rise to the top, and it never does.
No, they never do, because it's the thing. If you end up with all one loss, let's say you end with a 1-loss champ or even a 2-loss champ, like, you're not getting above even 2 Big Ten teams or 2 SEC teams. Like, it's more likely that there will be a Big 12 team, a Big 10 team, SEC team, and then an extra Big 10 or SEC team or ACC, whatever like that. Like, it's crazy to think about what the Big 10 is going to be like next year, just with all these good teams that are going to be entering the Big 10. So it is kind of fun to watch and kind of do that. But I think, speaking on the college football playoff, Josh, would you like to read the rankings? Let's just do the top 10. You don't have to do all 25, even though I am mad about number 25. I'm very upset about that. I think that Air Force should be higher. That's just my opinion. They have like the second best defense in the country. Anyways, go ahead. Start from 1 to 10. Tell us the rankings that have been dropped by the College Football Playoff Committee.
In the top 4, if the season ended today, these would be the playoff teams. Ohio State 1, Georgia 2, Michigan 3, Florida State 4. And then, like we said, Washington, the one other undefeated Power 5 team, is on the outside looking in at 5, followed by a couple tough 1-loss teams in Oregon at 6, Texas at 7, Alabama at 8, Oklahoma at 9, and Ole Miss at 10. And then I'll just go ahead and read off the other 1-losses. I know these are outside the top 10, but Penn State's at 11, Mizzou's at 12, and Louisville's at 13.
Yeah, I'll get your thoughts here on this, but my first initial thoughts, I get it. I got it from a couple of different people. My head coach is a Rutgers Rutgers fan, so we're battering each other for this weekend. But he was asking me my thoughts, and I kind of said it this way, right? Like, people have been saying, Ohio State, they don't deserve to be number one. They barely beat teams. I'm like, they have the two best wins in the country. They beat Penn State at home at night, or not at night, sorry. Penn State at home. They beat at Notre Dame. They beat Notre Dame on the road at night. They went to Wisconsin at night, beat them, right? And I look at this team, and again, they might not be the most prettiest team to watch, but we found out, and I think someone said this, I think Joey Galloway said this, like, this committee is looking at your strength of schedule and the what you have on your schedule versus how you're winning, right? Like, they're not looking to see you're putting up 85 points. They're saying, are you beating the teams you should beat, and how does that schedule look? And right now, Ohio State has the best strength of schedule. People say, well, Georgia's a two-time champ. Again, our power rankings will look different than the college football rankings because we go off based on like what we think is the best teams. And Georgia, to me, like, could they have been one? Of course, but their strength of schedule is weak. They didn't really play much, many people.
And this
yet.
is also this year's playoff poll, so I don't think you can really take into account anything that happened in the past.
Agreed.
It all has to be this year.
Yes, agreed. And then Michigan, they're atrocious in their strength of schedule. Their best win is Rutgers. That's saying a lot.
Yeah.
And then Florida State obviously has a couple good wins, and then
they've
Washington.
Duke,
well, people saying
LSU.
People saying, well, what about Washington? I think the committee made it right. Like, they've been struggling. They're on the cusp of a loss. And then obviously you have at 6 you have, who is it? Oregon. Yeah, in Oregon, like, let's be honest, and I think someone said it the best. Oregon probably tomorrow could beat Washington, and they'll probably be in the top 5 here shortly. But you have them, obviously Texas, Alabama. Was Oklahoma in there? I think
Oklahoma 9, Ole Miss 10.
Yeah, and Ole Miss is the one that shocked me a little bit. I thought Penn State deserved 10. I think Penn State played Ohio State, defensive wise, that played them pretty well.
Yeah, it's just outside of that. I think Penn State's best win is Iowa, if I remember correct. Yeah. And at least Ole Miss can point to LSU as boring of a game that was to watch. If you hate offensive football, it's like they did beat LSU, so that's a better win than I think Iowa. And then their losses to Alabama, so it's like Alabama. I mean, it's not exactly as good of a loss as Ohio State right now, but it's still like, okay, I can go ahead and be okay with that, I guess. If you've beaten LSU, you've lost Alabama, that's kind of like your resume. Penn State just doesn't have that signature win.
And the only other thing that frustrated me was seeing that Tulane was above undefeated Air Force, which I think Air Force just has proven they're a very good team. So that's my other gripe. But any gripes for you about the top 25 that you were like, hey, I would have switched, or I think this should be an adjusted before they dropped it?
Not really. I mean, it's all like little things, I guess, like little nitpicky things. Like, I might put Notre Dame over LSU, but they're 14 and 15. LSU's 14, Notre Dame's 15, so I'm not gonna freak out too much about that. And maybe I'd have USC lower than 20, but yeah, it's like nothing too big. And like you said, I think the committee, at least right now, is much more so looking at resume right now, which it's going to sort itself out. Michigan's going to end the season against Penn State and Ohio State. They'll definitely earn their right to move up, and Georgia's going to end their season. They have
the next 3 straight games are brutal for them.
They got to play Mizzou this week, and then they also got Tennessee, and then whoever's going to be coming out of SEC West and the
Ole Miss
SEC championship. Yeah. Washington's, like we said, they're going to have their chance to earn their way in, and Florida State.
They don't have many left. Florida State has, I think, one ranked team left, so they gotta.
Yeah, they might have. They gotta play Pitt, Miami, North Alabama, and Florida. It's all unranked teams from here for them, so they could coast into an undefeated season here. So yeah, I think everybody's gonna have their chance, and I mean, it always sorts itself out at the end of the day, Ben. We never really have 5 or 6 undefeated teams.
The only time we ever had an issue was the first playoff ranking was when Ohio State jumped TCU, right? That was the first time we really had that dramatic thing that happened.
That big dramatic thing, but I'm okay with Ohio State being one for all the reasons you said. They got 2 top 15 wins right now, which nobody else has, and while they did almost lose to Notre Dame on the road at night, that was a tough game. And I mean, we can easily point to Florida State and say they almost lost to Boston College. We can point to Georgia and say they almost lost to Auburn. We can point to Washington and say they almost lost to Arizona State and Stanford, but they got it done at the end of the day. with the wins, and Ohio State's almost loss was against the top 15 in the country. So I think that I'm going to be okay with that.
Well, and it's like, as we always say, Josh, right? What's the point of playing football is to win the game. Like, it doesn't matter how you win it. You win a game, you win a game. So again, I think it'll be interesting to see. I know David Cohn came out and said after they posted it, he shared, "I can't wait for November 25th." And I said,
"That's all what
yes,
Michigan fans are saying right now, man. They want that. They want them Buckeyes right now."
But I'll be honest with you. Let me get your thoughts on this before we go into the games this weekend. If they played right now, tomorrow, Michigan versus Ohio State, who do you take? If they played tomorrow and you had the team that you've seen the first 8 weeks for both teams, which team are you taking in a matchup?
Yeah, it's tough to say right now because, I mean, Michigan hasn't played anybody yet, but they're doing exactly what they should against the bad teams that they're playing. So there is that. I think I'll have a much better view on that once Michigan has their game against Penn State. But right now, I definitely think it would be a one-score game. I don't think we're going to have any kind of like double digit.
There's a chance the Ohio State Michigan game this year could be like a 14-10 game. Like, I'm legit serious.
It very well could, because I mean, Michigan's been playing very good defense. They just have been scoring a lot more because of their, I think, lack of competition, honestly. But I mean, JJ McCarthy's looking better. Donovan Edwards not so much as good as what we thought he'd be.
Corn's not looking as great either.
The offensive Michigan's been playing lately has not been what we've expected.
No.
So
I do love how someone. I do love so. What's the wide receivers guy name for them? He has like 10 touchdowns. Yeah, he has 10 touchdowns. Someone had the audacity, by the way, Josh, you're going to laugh at this, to say that Roman Wilson is a better wide receiver than Marvin Harrison Jr. Had the audacity. Someone put their stats up side by side, and the only thing Roman Wilson has is 3 more touchdown catches than Marvin Harrison Jr., but Marvin Harrison Jr. just looks more impressive. Like, let's just be honest. The man caught a ball for a touchdown with a dude's hand in his face. He had no idea where he was, and he just grabbed the ball toe tapped. Ridiculous. Yeah. Man's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'll also take my guy Malik Neighbors over Roman Wilson. No disrespect to that kid, but
yeah, that's true.
Just appropriately
Now let's look at the games this weekend. We have a couple big games coming up this weekend.
Think
let's go over
there's a lot of close spreads too, Ben, and I won't dive into all of them because it could take a really long time, but I'll talk about the ones that are going to impact the next week's playoff poll the most, I think. And why don't we go ahead and start off with
the big one.
The big one being LSU and Alabama.
I would have laughed if you would have said like some MAC schools playing. I would have just died.
So this is kind of essentially an elimination game, honestly.
It is,
because
yes, agreed.
If Alabama loses, that's their second loss.
No way,
LSU has the lead and can control their own destiny to the SEC championship from here. If LSU loses, that's their third loss, obviously. So then Alabama from here controls their own destiny and can finish the season with a 12-1 record if they can beat Georgia in the SEC championship game and be in the playoff, which nobody expected. At least I didn't think so preseason, and definitely wasn't thinking so after week 2.
But we both agreed that we can't count out Nick Saban. We both agreed on that.
We both said that, and that's why I hated predicting them to go 9-3. But here they are at 7-1 right now with a home game against LSU. Still in this race, Ben. Alabama is a 3-point favorite at home right now. This is a night game at Tuscaloosa. You feel any kind of lean towards either side right now?
You know, I just hate this because every time I pick against Nick Saban, I get screwed. But this is the thing. I'm tempted I'm going to go Alabama. This is the only reason, though. I don't trust LSU's defense. And as much as poor as Alabama's offense has played at times, I just think the Alabama defense is going to control the game enough against LSU where they can at least keep it within striking distance. And I think Milroe has improved a lot. And I think the team has improved. At the end of the day, I'm just going to say there's no way Alabama loses 2 home games this year. I don't see that happening. So I'm going to go Alabama 24. I'm going to go Alabama 28, LSU 24. That's going to be my score.
Alabama's last 3 games, they won at Texas A&M 26-20. They won against Arkansas at home 24-21. And obviously last week they have a home game against Tennessee where they're down 20-7 at half, and they come back and win 34-20.
Yeah. So I'm going to go 28-24.
Yeah, I think they're not going to win this game scoring a ton. And LSU's defense is ultimately, I think, going to be what costs them in this one.
Yeah.
But I'll go ahead and say that Alabama can score 30 in this one.
Okay.
I'll give them a 30 to maybe 27, 28 final. It's going to be close.
A tight one,
but,
as they would say.
Yes. So that's one that's definitely going to be interesting to watch. Another one that is going to impact, I think, the rankings this week is Washington at USC. Yes. We've seen Washington get very close a couple times.
USC should have lost last week. USC should have lost to California.
And we've also seen
the stupidest choice that California ever did. Stupidest choice. Don't go for 2.
We've seen USC lose 48-20 against Notre Dame. We've seen them lose 34-32 against Utah, and then they almost lose to Cal 50-49. So now they got to play Washington. This could be their 3rd loss of the season. Obviously, I think they're already out of the playoff race right now, Ben. But this could be that one game that Washington loses.
No, it's not.
Because you don't think so?
Let me tell you what the score is going to be. It's going to be 56-35. Washington.
56-35.
Like there is no way on God's green earth that I see USC winning this game. Their defense is so bad, and this is a very potent offense. When it's clicking on all cylinders, this offense, there's no way to contain this offense. I'm going to go 56-35.
Yeah, it's kind of like to me, it's like situational right here because Washington has gotten very close. USC has lost a couple times and almost lost their 3rd straight game. And it's like, is USC really going to go 1-3 here in this 4-game stretch that they got? Are they really going to do that? And I'm going to go ahead and give USC the edge here, Ben.
Oh my!
I'm going to come out here and pick a USC upset.
There's no way. There's no way. Not
that USC even has necessarily a great home field advantage at their stadium.
No one shows up to their
games. It doesn't seem like no one shows up. But I think that USC is going to come out for this one. I think they really do not want to fall to 7-3, go 1-3 in this last 4-game stretch. And Washington's been messing around a little too much, Ben. And I think this is finally a game that they could get tripped up in. But I mean,
you do you.
Yeah, and it is going to be a high-scoring game. USC, I think, is going to have to put up over 50 if they're going to have a shot here.
There's no way it's less than 70 points combined. There's no way.
Yeah, I'd be shocked. I'm trying to find a Vegas over-under for this one right now for you. The over-under is 76.5 right now.
Dude, that's crazy to think about.
There's going to be over 80 points, I think, scored in this one, Ben.
Dude, my over-under, and I'm going to even predict this. I'm going to do a surprise prediction. Michael Penix Jr. throws 7 touchdown passes.
7 touchdowns for Michael Penix Jr.
7 touchdowns. And it'll be 7 touchdowns, and he runs for 1 to make it 8 touchdowns for Michael Penix Jr.
Gotcha.
His Heisman moment.
His Heisman moment, indeed. It would be one of those for sure. So, all right, we differ on one, we agree on another. Let's look at another one that could maybe impact the next week's playoff poll. We've got Georgia and Missouri. Georgia's the home team here at 3:30 and a 15.5 point favorite right now.
I'm going to tell people this right now. This is a sneaky game. I want people to realize that this could be a game that could go a lot of different ways, and it could be a Missouri upset. And I'm going to say that no, I'm kidding. You're kidding. I'm not choosing Missouri. No, Georgia's going to win this game. I will say though, I'm not shocked if Georgia loses. Not because I don't think Georgia's good. I just think Missouri is very underrated, and I think Missouri is a very talented team. They have a very good quarterback and so on. I'm going to say Georgia wins this game, but it's going to be by a hair, like maybe last like a field goal or something like that. I'm going to say 35-31. I'm going to say 35
Missouri points.
Yeah. So I'll take 35-31. I just think Georgia's defense is not as good as last year's defense. I think their offense is still trying to figure out itself without Brock Bowers. So I'm going to go 35-31 Georgia, but I also could see that flipped.
Yeah, I think I would take Missouri points in this one too, but I'm going to go ahead and give Georgia the victory here. They did beat Florida last week, 43-20 in Brock Bowers' absence. Not that Florida's anywhere close to Missouri, but it is at least a little bit of evidence we can see where they were able to get some
And
other
it's
guys
also at
involved in the
home. For
offense.
me, it's also at home. So that changes
Yeah,
me a little bit too for me. So
yeah, being at home in Athens at Sanford Stadium is going to help them out in that one too. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that Missouri points here, but Georgia's going to come out with this win. I think it's going to be close though. Missouri is, I think, going to earn a lot of respect in this one.
yes.
All right. Let me check here. Another one I'll throw at you, Ben, that could impact the playoffs here because we still don't have Quinn Ewers. Texas is at 7 right now with 1 loss, and they're only a 4-point favorite against Kansas State right now. Malik Murphy,
Yeah.
give the kid credit, won last week
Yeah, he did
against
well.
BYU,
Yeah.
but he didn't look all too impressive, at
He
least in
did
my
okay.
book.
I mean, he did okay. I mean, he
He
didn't
did
do
enough,
great, but
but
he did enough.
Kansas State's a little different animal right now.
I'm gonna take Texas in this. I don't. I'm just not feeling it. You know, like how you feel a game's gonna be an upset. I just don't feel like
Yeah.
it's gonna be an upset. I'm gonna say Texas. Like I'm gonna say like 28 to like 21. Like I don't think it's gonna be a crazy high scoring game. I don't think it's gonna be a crazy blowout. I just think it's gonna be a back and forth game, and then obviously kind of at the end, I think Texas will kind of pull away at the end.
Yeah, since that Oklahoma game, they did beat Houston by 7. And then, yeah, in Quinn Ewers' absence, they actually handled BYU pretty good. I thought that was going to be a lot closer of a game than it ended up being. But yeah, Brooks, their running back, has been had a really nice game against BYU as well. So they're going to need another big game from him here. Kent State's also, I believe, running with their backup quarterback right now, and it might have been a change that works out better for him. Avery Johnson has had a nice game. No Will Howard in that one, but yeah, I see that, and I think it's going to be close. I feel a lot more better if Quinn Ewers is, or a lot better if Quinn Ewers is playing that game, but I think Texas is going to survive this one.
Yeah, agreed.
Let's see another one that I think could impact the playoff poll. We did touch on that Oklahoma State game a little bit earlier. Oklahoma is a 5.5-point favorite right now on the road at Oklahoma State. I would be surprised if Oklahoma lost 2 straight games, though. I know, like last year, they started off nice and then imploded after that after that Kansas State game, I should say, and then they just like were
This
so
is
bad. But
yeah.
I don't think that that's going to happen again. I think this is a game they can get cleaned up.
This is the last person you would hear this from, considering I've been so high on Oklahoma for like the last 4 weeks. But I've seen this running back for Oklahoma State. He is phenomenal. Like he's ran for like 500 yards in the last 2 games. And if Oklahoma's defense plays the way it did this past week, I don't know how they slow him down. And again, I'm not saying Oklahoma State is a huge threat, but I'm gonna. I don't think I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm gonna
Just
say,
to let the listeners know, his name is Ali Gordon II, and
yes,
he's in
he's
his
a
last
freak.
4 games run for 271 yards and 2 touchdowns, 282 yards and 4 touchdowns, 168 yards and a touchdown, and 136 yards and a touchdown.
It's ridiculous. Flat out ridiculous.
Against Cincinnati, West Virginia, Kansas, and Kansas State.
Yeah, so I'm going to say Oklahoma State comes up with the biggest win they've had in a while. I'm going to say they win. I'm going to go 41-38.
Mm.
And I think this Gordon will have like 200 yards rushing again.
I do kind of get shootout vibes. I don't think this is the game that Oklahoma is going to fix their defensive issues in, but
No, I don't
think
know.
I just also would be shocked if they ended up maybe not imploding, but losing 2 straight at this point in the season. That'd just be such a letdown for how they started off, and I think they'll get up for this one. The last one that I think could impact the playoff pool a little bit this week.
Ohio State Rutgers, obviously. I'm kidding.
Ole Miss and Texas A&M. I mean, Ole Miss still only has 1 loss right now, and they are the home team in this one. But they're only a 3-point favorite against Texas A&M. And while Texas A&M is 5-3, Ben, they've played a lot of competitive games.
And their defense is good.
We mentioned the 26-20 loss to Alabama. They lost to Tennessee 20-13. And then they had that game with Miami week 2 that they ended up getting a lot. That was really the only time they've allowed many points, was 48 to Miami, and they lost that one. But I think this is a game that Ole Miss has to be careful about.
Yeah, I agree. I like Texas A&M's defense that they've been playing pretty well all year. Their offense, I think, is slowly putting it together. And Ole Miss tends to be that team that when they think they're better than a team, they, for some reason, it's just my eye test is that they just kind of fold a little bit, not like in a bad way. They just kind of like maybe don't put the gas as high as they should. I think Ole Miss is a very good team. I'm just saying beware. And I think Ole Miss will end up winning this game, but it's a game that I think could become a lot closer than people think.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and take Ole Miss in this one too, but it would not shock me if Texas A&M came out with this one.
Oh, for
here.
sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. They've had a lot of struggles too at quarterback, just with Connor Wegman getting hurt, and they've been running with Max Johnson for a while. And he had one of his better games this season last week against South Carolina, which a lot of quarterbacks have because they got one of the worst pass defenses in the country.
South Carolina, by the way, Rattler has been the most disappointing, just I think prospect in a long time. That guy looks so bad right now.
Yeah. In that Texas A&M game, he went 20 of 33 with 176 yards and a touchdown. But yeah, I think a lot of people, including the South Carolina fan base, thought that they were going to be a much better team this year, but it just hasn't.
No.
Just hasn't been the case. And you can put a little bit of the blame on Rattler. You can put a little bit of the blame on the defense too in that one. That's pretty much everything that I was seeing, Ben, that could really shake up the poll. Is there anyone else that you think could be on upset alert? I mean, Oregon only has to play Cal this week. I don't think anything to be scared about there. Michigan plays Purdue. Florida State plays Pitt.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, Ohio State plays Rutgers, but people are like, oh, they're 6-2. I'm like, guys, it's Rutgers. It's still Rutgers. Mm-hmm. That hasn't changed. So yeah, I don't see anything from there. But shall we move into our power rankings? Shall we jump the ship?
Go ahead and do that. Yeah.
All right. Well, I will give a rundown from last week. I can tell you that mine is changing. But last week's power rankings were for myself. 1 was Georgia, 2 was Ohio State, 3 Michigan, 4 Oklahoma, 5 Washington. Josh's was 1 Georgia, 2 Ohio State, 3 Michigan, 4 Washington, 5 Oregon. So let's start at 5 and we'll work our way up. So Josh, who do you have at 5 this week?
5, I'm going to go ahead and keep Oregon there.
Ooh,
I still think they're one of the best teams in the country, and I'm more so and spoiling my 4th pick, but keeping them below Washington just because Washington does have the win. I do think Oregon is the better team though, and I'm just waiting for them to prove it more so.
Yeah, I'm gonna put I'm actually gonna put Florida State at 5 for me. I think the more I think about Florida State and the more that I've kind of looked at their games and I've kind of listened to people talk about them and kind of get my own idea is like, yeah, they've had some really nice wins. They're undefeated. I don't want to penalize them for being undefeated. So I think I'm gonna put Florida State finally in my top 5. They're gonna be at 5.
Yeah, I don't hate it. Like you said, they've earned it with the undefeated record, and after that scare with Boston College, they've been doing what they should be against some of these lesser teams. Number 4 for me is Washington. They do have the win over Oregon, which is signature, and I know I picked them to be on upset alert this weekend and actually lose that game, but they've been playing some really good offensive football, and they still got some better win than most teams do. So I've seen them play at the highest level and succeed. So go ahead and keep them at 4.
Yep. Same for me at 4. I'm going to do Washington. I agree with everything you said. I think they've had a really good win against Oregon. They've looked rough, but hey, they're undefeated. I can't penalize them for looking rough. So I'm gonna stick that at 4.
Number 3 for me, I'm gonna keep Michigan there. I still am waiting for that signature win to really cement them there, but I think they will do it. You can only play who's in front of you, and I think Michigan, while I wouldn't put them at number 3, maybe in my playoff poll, this is a power ranking. I think they are one of the 4 best teams in the country, and that's why I'm gonna keep them at 3.
Yep, I agree with you. I think Michigan, until they get that big win, I can't put them any higher right now over the other top 2 teams. So I'm going to stay Michigan at 3 as well.
All right. Number 2, I am going to – I was so close to making a change here, Ben, but I'm going to go ahead and keep Ohio State at 2 here for now.
Again, this is power rankings, people. We're not saying – we're just saying overall.
I think Georgia, I mean, they're not going to look their best without Brock Bowers, and he's going to eventually come back.
Just like Ohio State needed Travion Henderson to come back for them to look decent in the running game.
Yes. It was very close though for me because Ohio State has, like I said, the resume, and I think Georgia's gonna end up with a solid resume at the end of the year. So Ohio State is at 2 for now.
Yeah, I was tempted as well, but again, I'm going to keep Ohio State at 2, and then obviously 1 for me is Georgia. I just think Ohio State overall,
Yeah,
they put the resume together. Again, the offense still there
they
needs to be
do.
some
Nobody has
kinks.
more merit and a better
Oh,
resume.
for sure. And I think Ohio State just needs a few more things to be kinked out with the offense. And once Ohio State gets healthy, once Emeka Buka's back, once they get healthy, obviously they lost Mayan Williams for the year, but once they get back healthy and the defense, kind of gets back healthy, man, this team is going to be scary. And then number 1 for me is Georgia as well for you.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
All right.
All right.
Heisman watch
Heisman's.
list. Let me go through these because I think there is a lot of changes going to happen in this week. At least for me. In mine, I had Caleb Williams at 5, Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4, Dylan Gabriel at 3, Bo Nix at 2, and Michael Penix Jr. at 1. Josh had Caleb Williams at 5, Jaden Daniels at 4, Dylan Gabriel at 3, Bo Nix at 2, and Michael Penix Jr. at 1. Josh, why don't you start with number 5? Is Caleb still there?
Caleb Williams is still at number 5 for me. If you would have lost 3 straight, that would have been the done deal for me. But
Yeah.
if you would have even lost against Cal, you couldn't blame him because he came out through 369 yards in this one and 2 touchdowns. Helped the offense get to 50 on this one. So I'm looking at the USC defense in this one, allowing 49 here. No turnovers, or at least no interceptions by Caleb in this one either. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep him at 5 for now.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep him at 5 as well for Caleb Williams for me. I just think that he's looked good. Again, he can't help that he can't play defense, so it's not like his fault. So I'm gonna keep Caleb Williams at 5, at least for the time being.
All right. I think I'm ready to go ahead and throw a position player in here as well. And I know he doesn't have the total yards as some of these other guys do, but Marvin Harrison is looking very nice.
Maserati Mar.
And now I got to take him out after you said that.
You don't like it? That is the greatest nickname.
I hate that, dude.
It is so good.
Marvin has 8 touchdowns this season. He's got
averaging like
889 yards. And he's averaging 18 and a half yards, which
ridiculous.
You look at all the guys that have the totals on him, they got way more catches, but I mean, if you get more catches, you're gonna get more yards. Marv's getting all the big plays.
If you just watch him, it's crazy.
Making all the insane catches, yeah. So I'm okay with throwing Marv here at number 4. I think I'm there.
Well,
coming up big.
Yeah, that's true. Number 4 for
some of
me.
these big games lately.
I'm guessing that you've now dropped Dylan Gabriel out of your top 5. Am I guessing
Correct.
that right?
He
Correct?
is nowhere to be seen. I thought being undefeated was a big thing with his.
I am also doing that. I thought I would have moved Caleb Williams up, but instead at 4 I had Marvin Harrison last week. This week at 4 I have Jaden Daniels. Again, I'm finally jumping on that train. He just looks like a quarterback that you want to be on your team. Like he just looks like that kind of quarterback. So for me, he's got the numbers. He's got that kind of poise. He again, if he just had a good defense, like him and Caleb, if they just had good defenses, what these teams would look like, right? He's got stupid good weapons on the outside. So for me, I think Jaden Daniels deserves to be in there, and he's at 4 for me.
All right. And 3 for me is Jaden Daniels. For all the reasons you said, he is completing 73% of his passes, which I believe ranks top 5 in the country still right now. Yards wise, he is at 4th in the country with over 2,500. And at touchdowns, he is number 1 in the country, tied for number 1 in the country with Caleb with 25. And they're not losing games because of him. He's leading one of the most exciting offenses in the country right now. So I'm gonna keep Jaden at 3.
At 3 for me is Maserati Mar. Sorry, I just have to do it every time. No, yeah, dude. I don't know if you obviously I don't know if you saw the highlights of the last game, but dude, some of the catches he makes, you just wonder how. Like he caught one with a dude just like grabbing onto him midair, and he somehow grabs the ball and then secures the catch. Like there's a difference when you watch other receivers, like watching Neighbors or those guys, like they're good. But there's something about whenever Marvin gets the ball, like he beats double coverage. They're running zone, putting guys around him, and yet he still finds space. And then when he gets it, he runs for another 15, 20 yards. It is mind-boggling. And this past week, they put a linebacker once on him, Josh. I don't know about you, but where in your playbook do you say, hey, let's put a linebacker on Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Yeah.
Stupidest idea ever. It was a cross route. He ends up scoring a touchdown. Like to me, it's just it's hard to find a guy that is more deadly with the ball in his hands than Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, he's got like I think 4 straight games with 100 yards receiving. He's going to pass over 1,000 yards, if not this week, for sure the following week, but probably this week. By the way, he's going against one of the worst passing defenses one of the best passing defenses in the country, and yet he'll still probably make them look like the worst passing defense in the country.
Yeah.
So for me, Marvin Harrison, he's a matchup nightmare. He's 6'4". He can jump, he can run, he can block, he can do everything you ask him. And yeah, I don't know what you do with him, but I'm gonna have him at 3.
Yeah, I'm ready to fight anyone in the comments that wants to show me Malik Neighbors' numbers or Rome Odunze's numbers, them being better. And like you said, I'll just show you all the traits and all the film.
It's a free. I mean, the thing is not that Neighbors is bad, but like, dude, Marvin Harrison Jr. is averaging 19 yards a catch. Like, dude, that's a first down, almost 2 first downs in one catch. It's not like he catches it 20 yards down the field. Most of the time, Josh, if you watch him, he catches it within 8 yards and he just takes it off, right? Like it's just I love it because if you heard the story about his dad writes him notes after every game. Like, and he said the Penn State game, he got no notes from his dad, so he knew he did a good job, right? Like that to me is awesome. Like to have that in your corner is just cool.
Number 2, and this is a game that I'm surprised, or this is a guy that led a team to a much bigger win than I anticipated. That was Bo Nix in Oregon crushing Utah. We had talked about that game before, Ben, and I picked Oregon reluctantly. I was like, I'm counting Utah out, and this is always what happens. They're going to come and win this game somehow. And then Oregon handled them in that one. And Bo looked really good once again in that game, leading the country in completion percentage still, very close to 80%. Has Oregon right in the mix here for the playoff teams with the one loss to Washington. Still has 2,300 yards, which is ranking around the top 10, I believe. And as far as touchdowns go, he's got 21, which is 5th in the country. So still big Bo Nix fan right now.
Yeah, I am too. I think that Bo Nix is number 2 for me. It's close though, man. The gap is closing. I'll just say that. I was very tempted, but Bo Nix, I mean, his completion percentage is ridiculous. And he's such a fluid quarterback to watch. He's also been in the freaking college football for like 12 years.
He has now started more games in college football than any quarterback in history, I believe.
It's ridiculous. It's mind-boggling. But
that's what happens when you start as a true freshman. You get COVID eligibility and
hats off.
All the above.
Hats off. And then again, and we guess we'll say our number 1, 3, 2, 1. Michael Penix Jr. Yes, Michael Penix Jr. Not hard for us to discuss. Give me your reasons. I mean, you know my reasons, but I'll hear your reasons.
Yeah, leading one of the most explosive offenses in the country. He's in the top like 2 or 3 of all the big quarterback stats, and he's undefeated right now. So it's, I think JJ McCarthy's still up there in the betting odds for some reason.
I just don't see it, man. I just don't see it.
Yeah, McCarthy's up there in like all the efficiency stats, like QBR and passer rating and completion percentage and stuff like that. But yeah, as far as totals go, Penix is crushing it right now.
For sure. So that is our power rankings and our Heisman watch list. Let us know in the comments what you think. Do you like them? Do you not? And we'll hear from that. But before we finish up today's podcast, we thought, hey, let's talk about the NFL because, trade deadline, some moves have happened. And then obviously we can recap the game from last week for the Browns and focus on this week for the Browns. One thing, poor Josh Dobbs. This man, by the way, in the last 2 years, he was with the Steelers. Then he went to the Titans. Then he went back to the Steelers, then Lions, then back to Steelers, then Titans, then from there to the Jaguars, from Jaguars back to somewhere else, then to the Browns, then from the Browns somewhere else, and then signed with the Browns this year. They got traded to the Cardinals, and then from now has been traded from the Cardinals to the Vikings because Cousins tore his Achilles. This poor guy. This guy just cannot find a home. He might as well just have a rental, like an RV.
Average life of a rocket
I
scientist.
know. Jeez, crazy. But any of the moves that you thought over, I mean, we'll talk about the Browns moves here in a second, but let's just, all the other trades, was there anything that you were like, this is a good deal for one of the teams or both of the teams? I have one in mind, which I think you might mention, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, most of the trades, there wasn't really a ton of excitement this year. No huge names on the move. No, like, DeAndre Swift type of trade like we've seen in the past or any other big name on the move. I mean, Chase Young going to the 49ers,
That was
I
awesome.
guess,
That was one I was going to mention. Like,
was the headline one.
you
And
put, dude,
Washington.
you put him with Nick Bosa. They're both in the top 5 in QB pressures. Dude, that's like, it's like back at Ohio State again. It's kind of phenomenal to watch, to be honest with you.
Then Washington also paired with their other rusher, Montez Sweat,
But
for a second rounder there.
But why did the Bears get him? I'm like, dude, okay. The Bears have also fired like half their staff.
The Raiders have also done a lot of firing.
McDaniel's gone. Their offense coordinator's gone.
Ziegler, their GM, is gone. Yep.
By the way, did you know the stat? How much money do you think they're paying their last 2 head coaches from now on? Put a number. What do you think?
Total.
Like they have to pay from now on.
30.
100 million. They owe 100 million with John Gruden and with McDaniels, and guaranteed money they have to pay.
Business 101 with Mark Davis.
Ridiculous. By the way, guess who's had the most head coaches since 1992, I believe. Not the Browns. Browns are second
for 7 of those years, so I guess
Browns are second. It's the Raiders.
They got to be close. Yep, that Raiders. Makes sense.
They have had 12 head coaches.
Very impatient.
But yeah, it is mind-boggling. Yeah, none of the trades were really impressive. We'll talk about the Browns and what we thought they should have done. But first, let's talk about the Browns this past week, and then let's talk about their trade deadline moves. But let's talk about the Browns last week. Obviously, we knew it was going to come to an end with PJ Walker. We knew there was going to be a time when we realized that he's not good enough. And yet they did nothing at the trade deadline. I'll talk about that in a second. Again, I don't think this was all on PJ Walker, but I feel like some of it was just stupid play calling by Stefanski. You're up what? You were up like what? 3 points with 4 minutes to go, and you threw the ball on 3rd and 3 when you have Kareem Hunt and all these other running backs have been doing really well all game. Why are you throwing the ball there? Questionable play call, but I'm not getting paid millions of dollars for a reason. So, give me your thoughts on the game. Was this what you Was this what you are ultimately expecting as you're watching the game, or do you feel like, hey, there's a chance they kind of pull this out?
I actually didn't watch it, so I'm not going to comment too much on things that happened in game. But I just saw the final score and was like, "Gee whiz, dude!" So,
I guess for me, the biggest thing is the defense. That's my biggest.
Yeah, that's something else that I
weaker.
heard. Like the defense didn't come up like it has in other games.
Yeah.
At least in like the big moments when it seems to matter the most.
The 3-headed monster of the receivers up there in Seattle just made our guys look like breakfast.
And Seattle also looks like could have run all over us too with the way that Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonner's yards per carry was, but they didn't really give him a lot of touches.
No. Yeah. So I mean, the Browns just looked so rough, and again, somehow they're still in second place in the AFC North.
Yeah,
which is
the lack of talented personnel at all the important positions on offense. It seems like
so.
What I'm going to blame most of this on.
Yeah,
but
let's look at.
I know that they did depart with DPJ.
Yes, that's what
I'm fine with that. Dude isn't looking any good. Well,
I guess they did say that. Like, I heard something that that he was if they were traded, he was wanting to go to Detroit if that was possible. Obviously, that's his hometown.
That's where he's from. Yep.
So again, I was glad of the Browns to be able to send him somewhere where I think he could fit in. What are your thoughts on the Browns not doing anything at the trade deadline? I was very shocked, to be honest with you. I thought they were going to do something, whether it's a wide receiver, a quarterback, or something. That means we're just stuck with PJ Walker. But what is your thoughts on the lack of trade deadline?
Yeah, I thought you really had to go out and get like a DeAndre Hopkins, or I heard that they were making a push for even Terry McLaurin possibly.
That'd been awesome.
Even if it was going out and getting a backup quarterback like Jacoby Brissett, I guess somebody better than what we got with PJ. It's just or depth at the edge rusher spot too, behind Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith.
Chase
also
Young would
would
have been awesome.
cool.
Getting Chase Young would have been a nice
I just wasn't willing to
bonus.
give up a third for that guy.
Yeah.
The injury history he's had, and plus he's a free agent at the end of the season. And that was just like, that was an investment I was interested in making. But yeah, the lack of moves is just, is the
Typical
front office
Browns.
that confident in this season? Do they just think that, I know Deshaun Watson's back in practice, but they're just banking on a healthy Deshaun Watson being the fix for all these issues?
What's your thoughts on that?
That's what I'm going to guess is their philosophy.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on that, by the way, with Deshaun Watson? Like, how much longer do they give this experiment? I mean, like, I'm being serious. Like, how much longer do they go? Like, I know there's not going to be able to trade him. Like, it's just obvious. But like, how long do they go with this experiment until they just eat the contract? Like, and I don't want to say this as a Browns fan because I want them to keep him. Obviously, I want him to be the quarterback, but how long, what is it going to have to take for them to go, maybe we should just scrap it and try to start from fresh?
Yeah, so year one with Deshaun, obviously you had to deal with the suspension, and then you were just watching him try to get back in the swing of things of playing, real football, not just simulations or practice or watching film. So it's like you could expect him to be below expectations that first year. And the second year is when I thought we could really start judging him. And, he's been up, he's been down, he's been, I think, hurt too for a good chunk of it. So it's like, how much of the struggle is due to that injury? And I mean, injuries are injuries. So it's like, if we feel like he can return to like his old Houston Texans self, do we just wait it out? Obviously, you don't want to rush him back and have like a situation like Ohio State's had with Travion Henderson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba rushing superstars back too soon, or even a situation where we just went through with Baker Mayfield with playing an injured quarterback. Obviously, don't want to do that. So, depending on how much this injury continues to nag, it's like I really would like to judge Deshaun as Deshaun when he's fully healthy. But also, if it's something that's going to be recurring, that's also annoying because it's like the best ability sometimes is availability. And we're about almost halfway through the season right now. So I would hope that the second half of the season we can have a fully healthy Deshaun Watson. And we can really honestly judge him then. But I'd hate to give up on it too soon. But I also get like not wanting to continue to wait and just continue to pay for average quarterback play. So maybe next year, early next year is when we can fully see it. But I mean, we're still in this playoff race too. We're the 7th seed right now, I think.
Yep.
And if we can get a fully healthy Deshaun Watson, I would think that is going to be enough to at least get us in the playoffs. Maybe not make any kind of serious run.
The AFC is a little weaker outside the North. It's a little weaker this year, so I think there's a shot. For sure.
Definitely probably the most competitive division right now in the AFC right now is ours.
Now, Josh, we look forward to this weekend. Obviously, it's a big game coming up with the Cardinals. I'm jokingly saying that. Cardinals playing the Browns. I believe that's at home, if I'm correct, right? Is it a home game?
I don't know.
Is it a away game? But anyways, I know that there will be no Josh Dobbs. Obviously, he's been traded, and there could be Kyler Murray, or it could be Tune as the starting quarterback. Yeah, or Tune as a quarterback. Very interested to see, what Browns team we see showing up. What's your thoughts on this game and your prediction? I'm going to go out and say, this is what I'm just going to start here. I'm going to say prediction, Browns win. I'm going to say 24-13, Browns win.
This is a game you better freaking win, Cleveland. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah. I'm tired of this. So, I'm going to go ahead and give Cleveland like 26 in this one, and Arizona's going to score like 12.
Yeah, ultimately, I think I'm going to also go out with a bold prediction here. I'm going to say Amari Cooper has a big game. I think he's going to have about 10 catches this game. I think their goal is going to get the ball to Amari Cooper on the outside. So that's what I'm going to say.
All right.
That is what's happening with the Browns this week. And I hope that that will be keeping you entertained. Josh, anything else you would like to add? Or shall we wrap this show up?
I think that's a wrap.
Let's a wrap. So if you've enjoyed this show, please go ahead and give us a thumbs up and a subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button. That will allow us to know, hey, you're loving the episodes of the podcast, everything from before and in the future, and you like to keep us up to date on what is going on. Also, comment below, what is your favorite lollipop flavor? Yes, lollipop flavor. Josh's is turnips. No, I'm kidding. That's not his favorite. No, but we hope that you enjoyed it. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you star it, favorite it. Make sure you share the link with your friends and family. Allow them to hear what is going on here at the Baseline Podcast. And as always, until next time, we'll see ya.